welcome back. It's gonna be very similar to what I did yesterday. So we're just gonna jump straight into it today. Our flight plan is the same, so that I can show you guys the same on both. So it's Los Angeles to Logan International. There's a lot of waypoints, and it's about a 4-hour, 40-minute flight if you look on SimBrief, and we are going to be using SimBrief. I never changed the airframe, so right now it's an A320-200. If you were doing a flight and you wanted to get accurate things to what we're going to be using today, I'm going to be using a 737. That doesn't come with the game. 787 and 747 come with the game. I paid $80 or $70 to get the 737. Anyway, this 737 is PMDG 737, so thanks to them. And we're gonna be flying this really long waypoint. It's on here, and I came prepared today, which is good. So I'm already ready to go. So we're gonna jump straight in. We're gonna go just at really any gate, because so here. And later on, there's a lot of special features with PMDG that most of the what's it called? There's a lot of extra things that PMDG has that Flight Sim doesn't have. Like they have heads-up displays, and you can customize the cockpits, and you can get better, more accurate weights and payloads and stuff. So yeah, we're just gonna set our weights and stuff. So in here now, if we were using a 787, this works with the PMDG. If you're playing on Xbox, which I am, setting the weights and the balances in here doesn't do it in game for some reason. It just keeps it at the standard, which is 50%, 23.57%. That's the default. So I'll set it in here to show you what to do. So if you look on SimBrief, our block fuel is 25,676 pounds. So go and put that in, and remember the fuel is in 25,795, and you see it's in lbs, pounds. So just make sure you have that the same. And then cargo. So we want payload. Cargo is just the baggage, and payload is the passengers and the baggage combined. So we want to use payload, which is 47,389 pounds. So just scroll this up. Now this doesn't work with PMDG, but if you're using, say, the 747 or the 787, or even just one of the Airbuses, they both work if you set it in here, which I don't, which won't work for me, but I still did it anyway, just to demonstrate it. So we'll press fly, and I'm going to show you. I'll do a completely separate video on PMDG, but just while we're in here, so that you can get accurate zero fuel weights and center of gravities when you're getting ready to fly, so that you can get accurate. I'll show you how to set the fuel in here. There's two ways to do it. Whenever I cover the PMDG, I'll go through both ways. This time I'm just going to go through the faster way, and I'll just show you how to do that. So it might take us a little bit to loading, because I am playing on an American server, and this is Los Angeles, so you already know that the airport's going to take a while to load. But and there's a lot of people here. Oh, okay, that was actually pretty fast. So actually, I just re-downloaded this because I had to reset my Xbox, so it's going to take a second, and it's going to start us in cold and dark. Now, whenever you get the plane at first, this PMDG, technically this isn't what the video is about, but whenever you get it, it'll already come start up. I don't know if the engines are on. The engines are on, so if you go to engine, oh no, they're not, never mind. So anyway, it basically comes with APU started, I think. No. It just comes with everything set up already, which is not what we want. So in order to do this, we can go to PMDG setup. We can press, well, to start, we can press startup state, so that every time when we come in, you put it on cold dark, which means nothing's on, everything's off. So our startup state is cold dark, and now we can load the panel state, cold dark, and execute. And it'll just take a second. And now look, everything's off. All the dials went down. If we look outside, no trucks are nearby, except for the pushback and that. So, again, just like yesterday, I'm only doing enough to get on with the Airbus. I'm only doing enough to get the FMC on, and that's all I'm doing. I'm not going to do too much for this. So, because it's PMDG, it's a little different also. You can't just press, yes, I want ground power. The first thing we'll do is we'll turn on battery. So battery's on. And we'll scroll down, look in here. You got to go to FS Actions, Ground Services, and press Ground Power Request. And whenever you press that, it'll say connecting. If you look outside, this little truck right there popped up. And it's gonna, in a second, it'll connect. There it goes, there's the wire. Now you can see it'll say, it's still connecting. It'll just take a second. It'll say release, so it's already connected. Now it's just gonna say release, and you don't want to release it. It's just there. And now you can come up to here and push this down, and you can see everything's on. You hear the fans whirring, and we're good to go. So now I'm gonna show you what I meant when I said to just put in the weights and the fuel. So to start with fuel, all you can do this one of two ways. If you look at SimBrief, you can see estimated 0 fuel weight. You can put in that. Or no, sorry. You can put in the center of gravity. Which I'm not going to do because I don't have that. So you could, if you had the center of gravity, you would just type in the gravity, the 0 fuel weight, whatever. But what I like to do is I just put in the total fuel. So block fuel, which is 25676 for this flight. 25676, and then you just put it right there. And now we can see, look, okay, put it in. Now if we press return and go to payload. Oh, and look, so all the screens turned on. It takes a little bit in 737s for the stuff to turn on. Anyway, we can go to the passengers and see, okay, there's 146. So we can just say, if there's 146 passengers, we'll just do 146 economy minus 6. So 140 in economy, 6 in first class, and we'll just say it's there. And 6 in first class. So that's our passengers. Passengers, I'm not exactly sure. I think they're 150 pounds each. That's just the standard weight that they go as. Then you can put in the forward cargo and the aft cargo. Or you can just put in the, I think there's a tow weight or fuel weight load level. Never mind, I thought there would be a, just a way to put in the max, but there's not. So all we can do is we just need to split the cargo in 2. So 13,914 divided by 2. I'm going to use my phone for this. So 13,942 divided by 2. Or 914, sorry. 13. I can't type today. 13,914 divided by 2. Enter. 6957. So there's 6,957 in both cargoes. 6957. 6957. So now all our stuff is in. You can see that now we have our gross weight is 160.5, which where is it? 145. Sorry, I'm going a little over my head right now, but you just put that in, you put in this stuff, and then you're good. So now we can actually do the FMC part. So we can press Control 3 this time. So last on the Airbus it's Control 5, on the A320, on PMDG 737-800 is Control 3. Now we can press FMC. Let me see. Nav data out of date. So now I'm going to show you a quick thing that I forgot about that you need to do in order to use the FMC. So we can go to PMDG setup, and go to options, simulation, IRS options. Now, IRS, you can make it realistic, which is about 7 minutes or so, fast, which is 30 seconds, instant. For the purposes of this, usually I have it on realistic, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to put it on instant just so we can get the IRS aligned right away. And then I'm going to switch it right back to realistic after this. So IRS is up here. If you press Control 7, turn these two knobs to nav, and you wait for them to say align. So they'll switch over to align, and then if you want, this isn't mandatory, but you can turn this knob to HDG STS, and it'll give you time before. And since we did turn it on to instant, and the lights are flashing, it will say 0 minutes before because we set it on instant. I'm going to turn it back onto realistic. So that's just a way to trick this into thinking that you waited the full time. So I turned it back on realistic, so my settings are different now. And then I can go back to menu. You go to FMC. We'll clear the message. So you just press clear to clear the message. You press FMC, init ref to get to your first initialization page. And we go next page to get the GPS. And you just plug it right into the IRS position. And there we go. We can see now the map is up and the display is up, the speed and that one. Now we can go to route. Most of the time in a 737 and just in Boeing in general, whatever you need to do next that's mandatory is going to be to the right. So we can click here. So it's going to be on the bottom right. So just click bottom right and it'll bring us to the routes. Now we put in our departure and arrival airports, which I can show is KLAX. So unlike the A320, instead of putting a slash through them, you put them in separately. So you put in KLAX to origin, and our arrival is KBOS. So I'll just KBOS. Click there. And now we can go to departure arrival. So actually you can do multiple things. It doesn't matter what order you can do it in. You can go to departure arrival and put in your departure, then come back to route, go next page and start putting in your waypoints, or you can start putting in your waypoints besides the runway and the star or the SID and all that, and do that last. Personally, I like to go in order from how things are going to show up in the flight plan. So departure, then waypoints, then arrival. So we'll click departure arrival. We'll go DEP, and we'll select our runway, which we can see we're taking off runway at KLAX. We're taking off 24 left, following SID, standard instrument departure, which is a group of waypoints. So SID, OSHNN1 to B. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to select runway by going next page. It'll bring you down. Oh, it was at the bottom. I didn't see that. So 24 left, following OSHNN1. So we can scroll around a little bit. Next page, see if it's on there. Yes, it is. OSHNN1. Click that, and then transition of Beal. Now all that's selected. So now we can just go to route, activate, execute, and now that's in. So now we can start plugging in our waypoints. I'm gonna do this a little bit faster than yesterday, or than the day whenever I put out the A320 video, which I'm filming it from the perspective that this is the day after, but I'm probably not gonna post it until a little while after. Anyway, so we're going to be following the airway J146 to DICE. So in order to put in an airway, you put in the airway, and then you put in the waypoint. So just a way to identify airways versus waypoints. Usually the first three, unless it says, so there's many things it can say. It can say KLAX, 24 left, and it can give you the SID, which is what we have. We have a SID, and the SID will bring you out at a waypoint, so you can program that in. Or it'll say DCT, which means direct. So it'll be just direct to a waypoint without following a SID. Again, a SID, or an airway, is just a group of waypoints put together that you follow when you're flying, and that the plane knows what to follow. So we can look here. This is a waypoint, Beal is a waypoint. And separating Beal from DICE is an airway, J146, and that's a group of waypoints. Now, again, separating DICE from DVC is J146, which is, again, still an airway. Now, what's separating DVC from HBU is a direct. Now, all that direct means is it means that, okay, we're going to be going straight from that waypoint to the next waypoint. That's all that means. Sorry, I'm going to quickly check on the stream because sometimes it doesn't work. Just need to make sure that's working. And I'm sorry, I'm realizing now the audio's glitching. The game audio. I'm not sure if my voice is glitching. Okay, so my voice isn't glitching, it's just the game audio, so I do apologize for that. I can't really control what the game does, but that's it. So anyway, again, what's separating DVC from HBU is direct, and that's all the waypoints you see up until you get to the destination where it's going to be separated. It's going to be either direct to the airport runway and the runway, or you'll follow a star. So our star is JFun2 for today. We'll get to that later, but a star is like a SID, but just it's an approach instead of a departure. Okay, so next up, what we have on the list is J146 to DICE. Now, like in the A320 on the Airways page, you'll put in your airway. Always put in the airway on the left and your waypoint on the right. So we'll put in J146. If I can find it. So J146 into here. And then it will come out of it at DICEE. So DICEE. Put that in right there. And now you can see it worked. So it's going to be J146 to DICE. And whatever's highlighted gray is what's going to be changed about the route. So that's all that means. Next up is J146 to DVC. So go in as J146. Just put it in there. Now this means invalid entry. So that means we can't follow J146 after DICE. Just won't let us. When that happens, it's a really easy fix. You'll tell air traffic control that it won't work, and they'll either give you a different airway and a different waypoint. If they give you a different airway, they're going to give you a different waypoint. Or they'll just say, okay, just go direct from DICE to DVC, which is what we're going to do in this case because it is a sim, so it doesn't matter too much. So we'll just go direct to DVC. So to go direct, all you do is you type in the waypoint and put it on the right side. Do not put the waypoint in on the left side, on the right side. And when you put it in, you'll say it says direct. So all this is saying to us right now is we're going to go from the SID, Ocean 1, to Beale. So from the airport, we're going to take off. I'm going to follow OSH NN1 to Beale. Then from Beale, we're going to follow a whole bunch of waypoints, J146, the airway, to DICEE. Then from DICE, we're going to go directly to DVC. That's all that says, and that's just the start of this thing. So next up, we have a DCT HBU. So we'll just put direct to H, B, and U. So again, leave this one blank because it's not an airway. Just put it in direct on this side, and this happens. So this is saying that we have an issue where it's like, okay, you now have to say, sorry, I can't think right now, I'm sorry guys. What this is telling to us is it's saying there's multiple waypoints with the same name. So you have to choose. Now, in order to do this, we'll look on SimBrief on the map. And zoom into our waypoint, so you just have to search for it. Our waypoint we want is HBU, so we'll have to look around. It's after DICE, after DVC, HBU, right here. So we can look there and see HBU is about 107.5 and 38.5. So north 38.5, west 107.5. So we can see north 38.27, west 107.02. So that one's much closer to it. It's not, because ours is in north and west. It's not in south and east. So we know that it's this one. So we just click this one, and now it'll put it in direct to HBU. Then we can keep going down the list, direct to MCK. So we can type in MCK. We can plug it in, and it's direct, so we just plug it in on the right side. And whenever you fill up the page, it's really easy. All you do is press next page, and you continue on. So our next waypoint is direct to KP63C. So we'll type in KP, 63C. And it's direct, so we just press 2, and that puts it in. So perfect. Then it's direct to KP66E. So we type that in. KP, wherever it is, 66E. And we just press there, and that puts it in direct. Then it's direct to CNOTA. So CNOT. My apologies, my controller didn't turn off, so that's why I wasn't talking and wasn't doing anything. But CNOTA, we'll just click here. And so put that in. Then now it's an airway again. So it's J146 to IOW. So that's another airway. So remember, for the airways, type in J146 on this side, then IOW, and we put it in. And then, so that's the airway. It worked. Then we go direct to GIJ. So just GIJ. Just direct from IOW to GIJ. And now we just go next page. Now, also, at any given time, you can press execute, and it'll save all your progress, which I'd like to do per page usually. I didn't do it on the last page, but it's all saved in there. So we can. And now we go next page. Now it's J146 to Roost. And so we can just go, yep, J146 to WOOST. That went in. Then it's direct to JHW. So let me go. So it's direct to JHW. So we can type in JHW. Again, I do like the 737 a lot more. It's my favorite airliner is the 737. So I know this FMC a lot better than the Airbus FMC. So I apologize that this one's going to be a little more in depth for any Airbus lovers. This one's going to be a little more in depth than the Airbus one, but it's still okay. So now it's another airway. It's Q82. So Q82 to VIEW. So VIEE and W. Then it's DCT, so direct. Remember, DCT means direct. To ITH, so we can type that in. ITH. So we just put that in. And now it gave us this really extra long list, like 2 pages worth long list of waypoints, so you can see there's a lot. Now, we can rule out ILS. It's not an instrument landing system. It's not another instrument landing system. ILS, ILS, ILS. Next page. ILS, ILS, ILS. So, we already ruled out everything. So, we know it's 111.80. Or, we already know it's north 4229.7 west and all that. But we just might want to double check. So we can just go look around on the map for ITH, which is right here. So we can zoom in, and we can see it's 76.5 and 42.5. So west 76.5, north 42.5, and so it is the first one. So we can just click that, and it'll put it in. And then the last waypoint is it's direct to PONCT. PONCT. So we'll type that in. PONCT. We'll just put it right there. Now we'll execute. Now, there's something you can do with arrival. Usually with your arrival, if you're flying IFR, which means instrument flight rules, where air traffic control is guiding you, they'll give you an assigned approach, and that's what you'll fly. And usually you get that when you're already taken off, so most of the time you don't put in the arrival until after you're already in the air. But because we are not doing this whole flight, and because I need to show you guys how to do it, And because the airport's probably VFR right now, we'll press on departure arrival. Press at, KBOS, arrival. And then we get this long list. So, I'm going to go through, to start, I'm going to go through some of the approaches. So there's multiple different approaches into runways. There's ILS, there's RNAV, there's VOR, and there's just the runways. So ILS means instrument landing system. It follows a ribbon down into the runway. It follows a glide slope, and it'll bring it perfectly into the runway. You just have to follow the certain degrees of pitch and stay inside of a little diamond, and it'll bring you down. RNAV is just, it marks the waypoint on the map. There's no guidance in at all. It just tells you where it is, and you fly it in visually. VOR lines you up left and right, but leaves VNAV on for approach, I'm pretty sure. So VOR is like, it's not pinpoint accurate, but it's close enough. And it older planes could do VORs, and some older planes couldn't do ILSs, I'm pretty sure. But we can just press on ILS, and we're going to be flying in on ILS 22 left, so we can click, or we're going to fly into runway 22 left. You could either use ILS, RNAV, localizer, it's your choice. I like ILS, because it kind of flies itself in, and it tells you exactly where you need to be, so ILS 22 left. Now, we select our star, and our star is like the SID, the standard instrument departure, I mean standard instrument arrival, and that's the one right before this. Sometimes if there's not a star, it'll say direct to the airport, but there is a star. So we'll go to the next page, or actually it's probably on this page. It's JFund 2. So you just look at this .22B. That's just to fly into the 22 runways. So it's JFund 2. That's correct. So we'll just click that. Now, for transitions, you can have, I think, up to 2 transitions. But as for this, if you can tell there's a transition versus no transition. If there was a transition, so there is a transition in this one. It's pumped. Now we know because there's nothing separating JFund 2 from pumped. There's no direct. It's not direct from pumped to JFund 2. It's just pumped to JFund 2. No direct. Now, there's not going to be another transition because ITH to pumped is direct. So that's, if ITH was connected, if that was even a choice on this other transition, then we would select that. But we can't because it's direct. So it's the only transition, there's only one in this one, and it is pumped. PONCT, we select that. And we don't need to select this one, even if it shows up, you don't need to select it. And now we can go to route. And looked, okay, so it put in the direct to ITH, direct to pumped. And you can go next page, and we can see it put in all the ILS stuff. And then we can execute. So now, what we can do is we can go to legs. And we can just go through. Let's see, okay. There's all these waypoints in. There's 12 pages of waypoints, which is an extreme amount. Now, what we can do is, just like in the Airbus, we can click PLN, which is the last, might not show up in this, because this can be glitched sometimes, but you can see it says PLN right there, on this end one, so you can go on this little knob and push it forward, onto plan mode, and you see it pulled up plan mode, and now we can, usually you want to do it at 10 miles, but if you're trying to find something, you can be at 20 miles. So first up, and we just, in order to watch this, we just press step. So you press step, 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 and just make sure everything's connected and it looks at least like there's not a huge jump to another waypoint. And so you just, and there's no blank parts, or blank like spaces. So just scroll through. Just keep going. And I had a problem on this one, so if in order to reset it, you can't. There's no way to go back. You just have to press the legs and step through until whenever you get to the point. Now I had this problem. Hang on, I passed it up again. Sorry, guys. Wait, where was it? So we just keep stepping through. And you just keep going through. I was going to say something, but I changed my mind. You just make sure that everything's connected. Right here, we can see it's not connected. Sometimes that happens. What I like to do when I get to here is I just zoom out and try to see, are we sure it's not connected? And we can see it's not, which means there might be something wrong. And yes, we can see there is a vector. Now, all that vector means is you continue flying the heading, or you fly the heading it says, up until, I'm not 100% sure exactly what it is. Usually, what I do, you can't clear a vector, so in order to clear in this airplane, you press the del button. So you can't delete a vector, it'll say invalid delete. So what you can do is you can click on the waypoint before it, so you can click Wane and bring it up. And you would never do this in real life. Don't do this in real life. But just for the simulation, you can just press Wane and go up and click vector. And then you can execute. And now you can see it'll bring it over and it'll bring us down into the runway. And that's the runway. The runway, I'll go a little closer to it so that we can see it a little bit better. We should be right over a runway in this on the flight plan or on the computer is always marked by these little two white lines and a circle. That just is showing like, okay, so you want to land in the middle of the two white lines. And that's that. So now we can just go back to map. That'll bring us up where we're facing, the screen is facing our heading. And you can press legs. And actually we want to go back into, we want to press init ref. Now we can go back to the view. You can see, okay, so now we have this. So we start at the bottom. We start at our cost index. Now our cost index is today. It changes sometimes. It's not always the same. It varies per airline. The cost index is basically how much fuel do we want to burn and how fast do we want to go. So like how much money do we want to spend, but how fast do we want to go. So that's like Spirit Airlines, and for example in America, has a high cost or a low cost index. You get there slower, it's less quality, but the fuel is a lot cheaper. It's cheaper to go slower. And that's why it's cheaper to fly Spirit. Whereas Delta and American, they'll have a higher cost index, usually, because they can burn more fuel because they're getting more money from the tickets. So our cost index for today is 50. And I think the max is 100 or like 150 on 737, so that's like halfway, pretty much. And our reserves, now there is a way to find reserves. You can either use a calculator, it'll say it on your chart. And like I said in the Airbus video, if you press view PDF, it gives you the pilot, the full load sheet and the PDF that you would see in real life. I'm not going to click that because I'm afraid it's going to end the screen recording on my computer. But just know that you can see that. I'm just put in 1, which just means 1,000. It's divided by 1,000, so 1.0 just means 1,000. And then you can just double click 0 fuel weight and it'll automatically put it in. And for some reason, it already put in our cruise altitude and it's not correct. So to overwrite it, you can just type in 330. Or no, it's in. That's the trip. So we just typed in the cruise altitude, which is 330. And remember, flight level is divided by 100, so you could do 33,000. 33,000, which is the thing. And to get flight level, you can just backspace 2. And that would be. And I'm actually gonna take a little risk, and I'm gonna press view PDF. I don't think it's not recording it. Okay, so it won't record it, so it's fine. But you would put in the cruise wind. I'm gonna make something up. This can, whenever I do my full tutorial on my full flight tutorial, I'll go through this. But we're just gonna make something up. We'll just make up 50 degrees / 4. So this is 4 knots of coming in at 50 degrees, and that'll be our cruise altitude wind. And I'll just use that. And then we can go next page. It'll say insufficient fuel, and that's because we haven't really calculated this out. This is the Airbus fuel sheets. This isn't the Boeing, and I think Boeing uses more fuel, and based on the cost, it's just that's why it says unfinished fuel. We can just clear that message because we're not even going to be flying it. We'll just go to the next page. There's nothing on the next page, so you don't need to do that. And then we can just hit N1 limit, or you can press, yeah, you go next, so N1 limit. Remember, next is at the bottom, right? So, from now on, I don't have one. PMDG came out with a tablet, but it hasn't been released to Xbox yet. I'm pretty sure it hasn't been released to a marketplace yet. And it has a performance calculator. So your performance calculator, you would put in the selected temperature for the runway, or the selected something for the engine, along with the temperature that you want it to be. I just skipped that since in real life it would cost a certain amount depending on how much whatever that's selected set to. So you would just have to talk to your airline about that. Now, on standard takeoffs, this runway is long enough for a standard takeoff on the Boeing. The standard takeoff flaps, is 5 degrees. So we put in 5 degrees. Now, if we go to full screen, you can see all the flap options on this little dial right here. So we have it on the third option. Now, if it was a shorter runway and you're a little scared of 5 degrees, you can go to 10, and the max I put it at is if it's a very short runway, but I think I can get it in 15. I'll put 15 flaps. I never go below that, because just below that you're not going to be able to speed up enough to be able to take off. Or you'll be able to take off, and then as soon as you take off, you're not going to be able to speed up enough to be able to pull up the flaps in time, so you'll just kind of be stuck without anything to really do. So I want to go back to here, and just remember I put flaps on 5, so yeah. Now we can go center of gravity, which is our center of gravity today is 24.4. We can press F to get back to it here, and we can see it said trim is 5.13. So now we can look at the trim wheel, and we can look at the little numbers, and it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we remember it's 5.13, so it's a little bit past 5, and we can just, I'm actually going to do it with my Thrustmaster, but we just move the little knob until the little arrow points to 5 points. Just about 13. It doesn't need to be perfect, as long as it's close enough. That's fine. Now we can just click this for our V-speeds, and it'll give us our takeoff weight. And now we can see, okay, so our V1, which is, I'm going to go through speed. So V1 means, V1's how fast you can be going and still be able to abort a takeoff. So at 100, so if we had to abort a takeoff, if we're at 144 or past 144 knots, we can abort the takeoff. We would go off the end of the runway. However, anything before that, you can abort the takeoff. So if air traffic control tells you to abort the takeoff, and you're going past 144, you can't. You just need to keep going. It's only 2 more knots for V rotate, which is just when you pull back on the stick, or on the yoke, and take off, and that's 146. At 146 knots, you rotate. I'm not exactly sure what V2 means, but I know that that's what you put in the MCDU, the Master Control something or other. It's this. So we're just going to put in our everything right now. So we're going to put in our cruising altitude, or our cleared altitude. If you're flying IFR, you would use clear altitude. Since we're flying VFR, technically, I'm just going to put in the cruise altitude, 33,000. Heading, you put in your runway heading. I can see that in legs because I have a heading track, which is just following down the runway heading. If you don't have that in, and it just says this, don't trust it, because you might have to turn to get to it. So always just check on a chart or something like that, or just look it up, the runway heading for the runway in the airport you're at. Now, I do know that it's 251 degrees, so we can just set it 251. And that's the runway heading. And we can go back. Oh, no, actually. We want to set speed. And our speed, if we just click init ref and go to takeoff, the speed that we're going to put in there is 156. Or is it 154? It's 154. I apologize. So we'll put that in. 154. And then we can pre-select LNAV, VNAV. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think it won't work because we're not set up yet. But Then your courses, you can. Sorry about that again, my controller turned off, but you can just put in the runway heading, which is 251. So I'm just gonna go back until I get to it. Just go up to it. It's 51. You do the same thing on the other side, or you can put in a different number. You can put in the inbound, I guess, in case you have to go around. You have a reference to if you have to circle right back around to the runway because you have a problem and land. You can do that. And that's it for that. And now we can just check the climb. So our climb, our target speed, it'll give it to. Now for speed rest, we want to do 250 at 10,000. So that means you can't go above 250 knots at 10,000 feet. That's just a rule in all of aviation, in America at least. You can't go faster than 250 knots when you're below 10,000, unless it's an absolute emergency. Then we can go up to cruise. Let's see, okay. So that's right. It'll give us the fuel. Now, again, we were below the stuff, so we won't, it said to us we wouldn't have enough fuel, so it'll say fuel at K Boston, 0. And that's fine. Destination, we can look here, we can press forecast. We can put in our descent stuff and our descent wind and all that. I'll do that whenever I do the full flight. Let me check on. I'm pretty sure there was a way you can put in cruise wind. Might have been in takeoff. I'm not 100% sure, but maybe it's in performance. No, okay. I'm not gonna worry about it too much, but I think whenever you fly, you'll be able to do that. Now, then on the next page, I never do this, but you can put. Sometimes I'll put the runway wind, and then obviously you put the selected out, but that should carry over from the last page we did, which was the N1 limit. That'll carry over, and then you put in the runway slope and the acceleration height reduction, the throttle, and all that. You can put in all the stuff. Cut back. I'm not 100% sure what all that means, but if you know what it means, feel free to do it. And that's pretty much the entire FMC setup. This is a lot faster today than it was the other day, or yesterday. Or whenever, just whenever I took the last video. It is a lot faster than Airbus one. But that's it. So, that's the entire thing set up. Thank you for watching. And, have a nice flight.